Hello guys, we're back on the Eunoiacast. Look, no matter what intro we do, it's gonna be like funny. So
welcome to the podcast.
Welcome to the
Episode
podcast.
7, 8,
9,
10.
I think it might be 9
I think
or
I
8.
skipped a few.
Yeah, no, we lost a couple, but we're here today, and we are discussing. We've recently, Charlotte started it. We try to create a movement, and it went pretty disastrously.
Hang on, don't name drop us.
Sorry,
they're fine.
Chava is here.
Chava.
Which we've all created, nicknames because we have to keep away from the feds and all that. You know what I mean?
Aliens.
Yeah, we've all got aliases.
Yeah.
We have recently seen the bill that will be passed probably in a month's time. Maybe might get delayed.
It might crime courts and sentencing.
Yes, yeah, which basically, if nobody knows about it yet, will restrict protest. I think it restricts one-person protests.
You can be annoying. Police can arrest you for being annoying.
Yeah.
They can decide what's a serious annoyance and charge you on.
Well, yeah, the Home Secretary decides, and the police in that moment decide what an annoyance is in a protest.
A one-person protest can be policed, and the use of megaphones and speakers is banned outside of Parliament.
Yeah, which is one of the most common places to protest, which is a massive restriction because you can't protest at the actual
that's
houses of our government.
Place to
Plus,
protest.
it puts a lot of power in the hands of the Home Secretary to define, what annoyances or whatever, and which protests can go ahead. And the Home Secretary at the moment is Priti Patel, and I feel like Priti Patel is one of those people who you can really see her in a fascist all the time.
Oh yes,
you know what I mean?
yeah.
She is just has contempt and disgust for people who disagree.
Well, largely contempt for the left.
She's a bully as well.
Well, yeah, she's kind of a bit more moderate Trump in how she's outwardly disgusted by anybody who deviates from her ideology.
So just human rights lawyers.
I think she's prime, maybe more than Sunak, to be the next Conservative leader, if anybody was to be. She's obviously a woman, which would actually restrict her a little bit, I suppose, in voting. But she is somebody people could get behind, and she is reminiscent of Thatcher. She is actually sort of modern day Thatcher. And I think, did Thatcher start on Home Secretary?
I think so.
I think she was a Home Secretary.
I don't think she was ever Chancellor. I think she was Home Secretary.
Yeah. I think she was, because Chancellor was
the Home Secretary
designated
PM
position.
quite common, because Theresa May was Home Secretary as well.
Yeah, it's a common thing to transition from, and she's obviously said in the past about human rights lawyers being loonies and things like that. Yeah. It's all she's atrocious, and she is basically one of the main people footing this bill. It's basically her who's going to sign off on it. Her who's going to dictate a lot what's in the bill. Not Johnson as much, and not the rest of the cabinet. It's her. She's the main arbiter of the bill, and
she's one who has the power to decide more so how it gets implemented. And
yeah,
she
exactly.
Gets to define all the terms in. So.
And I don't imagine at the committee stage, which comes next, the third reading, that much will be changed in the bill. I don't think there'll be that much disagreement, considering in those who voted for it, Conservative Party line was pretty consistent. I think only 3 Conservative MPs abstained and 3 Labour MPs, but I think it was 360 something.
The vast majority of the government.
Yeah. Well, except from 3 Conservatives vote all in favour of it. I think all of SNP voted against it. Majority of Labour did, and all the DUP did as well. Actually,
the thing keep in mind is that Labour did end up voting against it, but they were originally going to vote in favour. It was one amendment, but I can't remember which one. There was one amendment that made them decide to vote against it.
I thought it was the Clapham Common protest crackdown as well. Maybe switch Keir Starmer's idea.
They were originally going to.
Because Keir Starmer's a fucking bitch for the police. Mainly, he loves his police officers. I think, have we mentioned before on the podcast about his actions with the IOPC?
Not on the podcast.
No, alright. Keir Starmer, was it Ian Tomlinson?
Yeah.
Yeah, the Ian Tomlinson case was basically, I think it was during a G20 summit protest in London when it was hosted here. Ian Tomlinson was walking back from work, and he was
a homeless man.
Yeah, he was a homeless. He had a job.
He was a rough sleeper.
But he had a job.
Yeah, he was selling newspapers.
Yes,
on the streets. Yeah. He was walking home, and he had to walk. No, sorry, he was stopped on his way home because they'd cut off his street because of the protest. So he went round the other way, and he had to walk past where the protest was. And a group of police officers started following him, trying to antagonise him. And there is actually a video of this. They come up behind him, and the bash him in the leg with a how do you pronounce it, baton, whatever, and he doesn't fall over. But then they grab him and shove him, and he falls forward. He has his hands in his pockets. He falls forward and whacks his head off the floor. He
reminiscent of the, because this is a long time ago. If you remember in the 2020 Black Lives Matter riots and protests,
the old guy
who got pushed over, his head cracked.
Yeah.
It wasn't as brutal as that.
that.
I think that guy survived.
That guy did survive, but
Ian Thompson was very
it was
unfortunate.
about half an hour later he collapsed and died I think it was blunt force trauma or something like that.
He might have had a brain hemorrhage.
Yeah, and they basically denied any involvement. But I think the worst part of it was, I think the whole thing was just mishandled, because even worse than the thing with the police, which is already absolutely disgusting, they chose somebody to do the pathology, and this person had he had a history of being a fucking idiot and getting reports wrong. The Yorkshire Ripper, actually, I think was one of them, where he had to do a pathology report on 2 dead prostitutes who'd been murdered, like very clearly stabbed to death. There was blood everywhere. They'd been stabbed, and what did he rule as? He ruled it as an accidental death during consensual sex, which is just disgusting. And that meant that the police were reluctant to open an investigation, which means that potentially he caused the deaths of multiple other women. So then, since that, he did the report, and I think he ruled it as this was it. He ruled the death as an accident. I think he said he had a heart attack, but
then the video came out.
Yeah, then the video came out, and then there was demand for another one to be done. Somebody else did it, and what he actually died of was internal bleeding from blunt force trauma. He had blood on his insides, which somehow he'd missed that he was bleeding internally, which is just ridiculous. But then even after that, they refused to prosecute. So they did another pathology report. So there was 3 done. 2 ruled the death as the same. 2 ruled it as blunt force trauma, internal bleeding as a result of the fall. And because one of them was different, because one of them said that he had, I think it was a heart attack. I think he said. But because of that, it meant that the trial didn't really go very well.
Well, it was thrown out by the judge.
Yeah, it was basically thrown out. I think he was sacked, but not charged with murder. The police officer who pushed him in the first place. And then later it came out that he didn't even have a license to be doing pathology reports, to be examining bodies.
Yeah, and there was Starmer, who was head of, I can't remember the official title, he was the head of the prosecution service. Head of the
and he sided with the police in that
situation. He
situation.
sided with them and helped to have the case thrown
That's
out.
a bit of insight into who Keir Starmer is.
Another shitty thing he did when he was... is it the CPS, Crown Prosecution Service?
Yeah.
I think he was head of the CPS. He'd, as a Labour man, as a man who's apparently been pro-Labour all his entire life, he, under the coalition government, was trying to push really hard to prosecute this benefit fraud, which in the vast majority of people that get prosecuted for that are end up as being innocent. So.
Well, not just innocent. Most of them are probably innocent, but most who are convicted benefit fraud end up killing themselves.
Yeah.
3,000 dead.
Well, they either kill themselves or they starve or freeze.
No, they starve or freeze to death, which is horrendous. So basically, Keir Starmer is basically a lackey for the Tories.
Yeah.
he's it's maybe a bit far to call him a Tony Blair yet, because he hasn't even had any power.
No, he's a Miliband.
Miliband. Yeah, not a Corbyn. Nowhere near a Corbyn.
There was someone, the guy used to work with the Latmans, there was the old guy Eddie, who said, very fucking, Tony Blair's just Tories and red.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
No, he
I like
the
sorry, there, cause it made us think of the song Lady in Red.
Yeah.
Tories in red.
yeah. He's dancing with Keir. With Keir. No, we then try to make a group on...
I think we've kind of got sidetracked there. But going back to the thing about this police crime court and sentencing though.
So we were talking about this when we saw it, and I got annoyed. So I put a little post on a local students group saying, I shared it, and then I said, is there any organised protests? I listed the things that were going to happen. And then somebody inboxed us and said, I know a couple of people who would be interested in this. Would you make a group chat? I said, yeah, no bother. So I edited the post. I said, I've made a group chat. If anybody wants to join, please let us know. I'll add you in straight away. I was expecting about 3 messages like, oh, yeah, I'd like that. I got about 50 50 people asking to join, and then quite a few people added other friends. So there was lots of people helping kind of organise it, and I think it is going ahead tomorrow. However, and this is the
tomorrow when we record this, probably when we release this, it would have already happened.
Yeah, but the sad part is the people that helped are fucking annoying
Snail.
middle class
Shithead
liberals.
Can't say faggots.
You're not.
So.
Yeah.
Aaron!
You can't
should
say
probably cut
pleb.
that.
You can't say pleb.
I'll cut.
Fuck's sake, Aaron.
Yeah. All right.
Right. No, you just the constant policing of language, and I'm not talking like, you know, Aaron dropping fucking slurs left,
F-bombs.
right, and centre. He's bisexual. It's fine.
No, it's
No.
like it's things. Here's one.
Named himself
Lovely.
pleb and got told off.
Yeah. So right, just for a bit of context, right? I have been using the name pleb online for like fucking 5 years, 6 years even. Since 2015. It's not even short for plebeian, it's short for plebedev, and I changed it to pleb just because I kept getting mistaken for being Russian when I was playing Counter-Strike, right? But, that's genuine. And then, and we were talking on Signal, which is like a more secure version of Messenger, I guess, where you make messages disappear. And someone said about how we should change our names to nicknames, not use our real names, because there might be, just in case there are police. And there might be police who are trying to infiltrate it, because you got those weird messages.
Some strange messages.
But so I changed my name to just pleb, because that's my standard online handle. And fucking lovely fella Mitch, who I've now seen in person, messaged me.
These
saying,
aren't real names, by the way.
Yeah,
so
these
we're
aren't
not.
names.
These
We're
aren't
not
real
doxing
names.
Mitch.
Snail is though.
Yeah,
Snail,
Yeah.
Octo
Boy.
boy,
Twigs.
Snail,
Twigs,
Snail
that's
and
a
like
real name.
octopussy and whatever.
Yeah.
But Mitch messages me saying, what did he say? It was something like,
You can't call yourself.
yeah, it was like,
Mm-hmm.
could you please not call yourself that? I think it'd be offend a lot of people. And it's like, I said, like, do you actually mean
It's
pleb? Is that
derogatory to
actually,
the working
and he
class.
told me that he told a working class person, as a middle class prick, that I should be offended by the word pleb. And it's just like, fuck you.
But he's literally dictating to you what you should be offended
Yeah,
by.
and then
He's-
I mean he stopped once I told him I am working class.
No, but he stopped in the
down.
worst
Oh,
way
this one.
possible.
Yeah.
This one I quite liked as well that they said to you, because we all, well, apart from Ruby, come from the northeast, and this does actually apply to Ruby as well. Our local traveller communities, which we have quite a few of, call themselves gypsies. They do not like being called travellers. They take offence to being called a traveller, because a traveller and a gypsy are different things.
Trevor's like Irish, innit?
Mhm.
Or-
Yeah,
or like Romanian,
basically, for people who don't know, the derogatory term on the northeast for travellers or gypsies is pikey.
Same in
Yeah,
same
that's the term you'd
that
use
is
to
the
insult
slur.
them, and they don't like
They
that.
want
But
to be called
gypsy,
gypsies. They call themselves gypsies.
a lot of them say they're quite proud to be gypsy.
They like literally gypsy and proud is a thing,
Gypsy
right?
King.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is the term we come from. In the south, however, it's different. I believe that, well, what we call gypsies like to be called travellers. It's like, you know, the other way around. It's not nice to call them gypsies. They want to be called travellers. Where we're from, it's gypsy, not traveller. But because these fucking people are all middle class, none of them are travellers, by the way, not a single one. All middle class, all fucking take their opinions from snappy tweets, because that's the only fucking politics they know of. They went, when Aaron said the word gypsy, it was, excuse me, I don't think that's actually like the PC
The
term
PC
that we
Well,
use
no,
in this
no.
chat.
This is the thing. This is the thing. We're all fairly to the left, okay, in a sense. All right. I'm not really proud to call myself left wing because of who I get associated with because of that. But if you watch right wing YouTube or even right wing Twitter, if you go on that, you will get like this. What I used to think was a made up idea of a left wing liberal, and I didn't like liberals prior to meeting these people, but I used to think if you watch a Paul video, you'll get like this made up idea of how like sensitive they are. And
It's
the
the
snowflake.
SJW. Do you think the SJWs, they are...
I thought it was
Like the
just
Recht
online, to be
compilation,
honest.
and they actually said like that generic sort of joke response.
Yeah.
That is not the PC term we use here.
And-
That's like
You
Family
think-
Guy's
yeah,
satire.
You think that's a right
You
winger
would
saying
not,
that?
and
isn't
it's
it?
No,
also-
that's like satire of like on Family Guy.
None of them
that is
were
the term.
travellers or gypsies, and I can guarantee none of them know any travellers or gypsies. Whereas I've actually spoken to, I partially lived in a village in Durham for a while, / Peterlee, and there was a lot of gypsies there. There's a fair few gypsies
No.
in Sunderland. Like it's they have no idea what they're talking about.
Some of my
Absolutely no
family
idea.
are like half gypsies, like my sister and like my cousin, and they call themselves gypsies.
Yeah, but they
They
dictate
call
what they
themselves
dictate
that.
what they
lived-
should be offended by. Oh, you're not allowed to be proud of being a gypsy, but you're allowed to be proud of being a traveller. Fuck off.
Yeah, no,
You can't
I
tell people what to be offended by.
I lived in a village which was like basically controlled by gypsies.
Yeah.
The like the dominant family there were gypsies, a crime family, and I don't know if you dared to say they're not gypsies, they'd probably hit you.
Yeah.
They'd probably
Yeah.
go, "Fuck you, I am." Right? They'd get angry at you.
A lot of
And
gypsies
this is-
have like either the clothes or the cover photo on Facebook, gypsy and proud.
Yeah, a lot do.
of
A lot do
them
in our area, especially.
Same in Yorkshire.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, maybe it is different in London, maybe it is different in rural areas of the south, but they are encountering in cultural differences in how we use language. And this isn't like...
Same with pleb.
yeah, exactly. And this isn't how we like use maybe... If we used the M word and went, oh, well, in the North East we can use it. It's like, no, that would be wrong. Of course you wouldn't, you never use that word in any circumstance. Or derogatory terms for any people. But in the North, gypsies themselves believe that the word is like a form of empowerment. And it's not like the argument like, well, if they can say it, I can say it. It's
Most
not
of
like
them
that. They
in-
want to be called
Yeah.
that.
Most gypsies in the north are rougher than the ones in the south. So that's
Yeah,
why
it's-
why they like being
there's so
called
many.
gypsy.
Yeah, there's a massive cultural difference as
Of
well.
course, the reason gypsies were brought up in the chat, why you referenced them, and how we should get gypsy speakers or traveller speakers there, is because in this bill, they will basically be, the police will have powers to just remove them from the land without any question. If they, sometimes even if they're legally living there, you
And they
can
can't-
remove them if they
can't
want to use the
return
land
for,
for something
like
else.
6 months. I
Yeah,
think.
they can't return for 6 months, which is deplorable. So they're going to be basically displaced and homeless because a lot of them live in caravans and a lot of them don't live in like conventional housing and can't afford conventional housing. So they're going to be horribly affected by this bill. But instead of focusing on the effects on them in this chat, they decided, because they're idiots basically, to focus on the fact we used a term they might think is wrong instead of the actual
that's
effects.
What pisses off is that I was literally saying we should get gypsy speakers because this bill affects gypsies and it's bad. It's like, oh well, you use like the nasty word for it.
Yeah,
No,
exactly.
to be fair, it's
It's like-
not because what annoys us as well is that it's the convictions they hold aren't even strong. I said no in the northeast. They call themselves gypsies. They don't like being called travellers. Went, oh, okay. That's fine then. When you said, no, I am working class, I don't mind being called pleb, well, I won't argue with your lived experience. If you're going to fucking have an opinion, at least have convictions about it. Don't just fucking back down immediately.
So middle class
And if that's
people,
the case, maybe your opinion is fucking wrong.
middle class people make
Or
up this
shite.
middle class liberal, left wing liberals make up this idea.
No, they really
Very-
romanticise it.
No. Of course, they romanticize the working class.
They want to live like common people.
Yeah. No, they romanticize the working class, and they make up this idea about how, I mean, it's probably over years, and you saw it during Brexit, how they're idiots, they're stupid, they're daft.
Like they have to have
It-
somebody fight for them
Uh-huh.
because they can't speak for themselves, they
Yeah.
can't think for themselves.
They have to be condescended towards. That is so it's so condescending and belittling for somebody to say to me, "Oh, I don't want to criticise your lived experience." Why don't you fuck off? You don't care about my lived experience. You never will. You view me as fucking scum.
No, I mean,
that's
Singh
the
was-
reality.
Singh
You'd
was
view
saying earlier
everybody in Sunderland who spouts a slightly right wing opinion because of a fucking abuse from your fucking left wing establishment bollocks as a piece of shit. That's all you'll view them as, because your fucking scum is the reality. You
No, Singh was saying earlier on as well is their movement is entirely because it is all just white middle class. You can't. It's so difficult for somebody who's white class to be involved in like a left wing movement because that is the face of it. We were saying earlier on, their whole thing is just reliant on like little snappy things that can say to sound like they're so inclusive of the working class, like never shag a Tory. No, we were saying earlier, as soon as you said never shag a Tory, fucking class inequality just ended. Everybody was one. It was just
the
it
bedroom
was a
tax
Marxist
just disappeared.
utopia.
No, to be fair,
3,000 people
when they said
killed by the
that,
Conservatives just revived on the spot
Yeah,
as soon
no.
as you said you would never shag a Tory.
when they said
Fucking
that,
well done.
benefits, fucking universal credit just skyrocketed 100%. They were like, the Tories like, wait, these left-wing people who are never going to shag us. We've got to change the system, really, then. No, you're not changing anything by saying snappy fucking bullshit things here on Twitter.
Putting
right?
stupid shit on Twitter isn't going to do anything.
Yeah, if you don't want to shag a Tory, that's fucking up to you, right? Nobody says you have to shag a Tory. But I do not care, as a working class person who's been affected by the Tories, or been affected by poverty, that you don't want to, because you're basically moral grandstanding me. Oh, look how good of a person I am. I don't want to have sex with somebody. I don't fucking care. You're relevant to me.
It's the same with when Southerners like really hate Margaret Thatcher. I think we've talked about this before. When Southerners like bang on about how much they hate Margaret Thatcher when they're middle class, it just feels so fucking. Like,
it feels so disingenuous.
Yeah, it's just like you secretly want to fuck Margaret Thatcher. Yeah. No, genuinely they do.
You've got some Oedipal complex about you.
You know that expression that people, you left wing when you're young. When people who when they grow up, you become more right wing. This is who that pertains to. Middle class white kids who are really politically active just because it's a fucking cool front to have when they're teenagers, when they're in the early 20s in uni. But then when they grow up, they will be fucking Tory voters because it will be the best thing for them. Because they've had a good education. They still have a good education. They're probably going to have inherited wealth. Their parents wealthy. One person actually said, I will be the main organizer because I have enough in savings to pay a 10k fine. When they get older, they're going to have all this money. They're going to be like, oh shit, I really like having money actually. I would rather it didn't get taxed. Fucking vote Tory then.
No,
that's what they're going to be.
They'll still think they're left wing because they'll still be socially progressive. And
yeah,
as long as
they'll still stop people from saying gypsy.
No, and to be honest, this is inflammatory to say.
Or women.
But
women.
Women
have to have
we'll get onto that. But it might be inflammatory to say, but social progressivism is a cancer. It's a complete and utter cancer on the left wing. It's killing us. It's killed us in the last 4 elections. It nearly killed us in 2020. I mean, I'm saying we, as though I agree with a lot of the people who run as candidates. I mean, I did agree with Corbyn, and I like Corbyn, but Joe Biden America I didn't very much like. But it did nearly kill a genuine left-wing movement that could have pushed Biden to the left. It nearly did kill him. Trump, miraculously, didn't lose that by a giant electoral college margin. He was close. He was 100,000 votes flipped from winning it.
I think it was the same margin as the 2016 election, but reversed.
Yeah, exactly. It was close. It's close, and they'll still rush in with this social progressive bollocks, constantly banging on about it, and every working class person's thinking, what about me?
Yeah, well, because
I've been left.
Like the economic, especially if you look in in the red wall seats that Labour lost in the 2019 election, in those places and in places like Sunderland, fucking economic progressivism is what everybody wants. Like people always bang on about how much better it was back in the day when Sunderland had like shipbuilding and coal mining.
All the generations do, yeah, of course.
And the working class actually do really like economic progressivism, but when you start saying Womexan and Latinx, it's like it's fine that you want to be inclusive. That's all well and good, but it's that kind of language just turns
but it's
away.
their own version.
These people in the group chat, like you've said, they use women with an X, but not men with an X.
Yeah, it's
that's one
that doesn't know that it only ever, and plus it's only ever trans women that they seem to talk about as well.
Yeah,
and that I don't know if you're going to be inclusive.
Trans women dominate the movement.
Yeah.
Yes,
trans men
absolutely.
barely get I can name one big trans man. Big trans
man.
One famous trans man. It's a porn star called Buck Angel.
How the fuck do you know?
Wait,
Aaron.
No, it's not like that.
Oh my god!
I know it is.
Fucked up there.
I know it is.
Is this right?
Aaron,
can I ask you a question?
Yeah. All right.
Oh, never mind.
It's off Country Points videos.
It's off a Country Points video.
I can show you pictures.
I didn't know they put Country Points video on Pornhub.
Huh?
They put Country Points videos on Pornhub.
I have talked to one female and male trans person on Grindr, and it was a bit weird.
How was it?
I used to have a very good friend that was female and male trans.
Well, but they are ignored in this movement. They are really left behind.
So left behind by
it's not even just this movement. Whenever you talk about trans people always talk about male to female.
Well, yeah, that's a common one.
It's very
and it's
rare
fine.
For people
it's
to talk about male.
Absolutely fine to counter in the issues that trans people face, because
No,
they do
obviously
face genuine issues.
That is not my issue at all.
The issue remains that you're killing us. The issue remains when you go on a campaign to get votes, don't bring up trans people. I'm saying generally, if you go to Sunderland, don't bring them up, because you're not going to get a good reception. The way you unite people is through economic progressivism, not through social progression.
Yes, go to trans communities and tell them what you're going to do for them. When you go into a working class community, like say if the Democrats were campaigning like in places like Pennsylvania, where all the manufacturing jobs have been lost, it's like you shouldn't go there talking about how much you're going to do with the trans community. You should tell that to the trans people, but when you go into a working class community, you should tell them, fucking, here's what we're going to do to actually give you a job, and to to stop you being exploited.
Exactly. Look in 2019. The Tories took the North, which is unheard of in British politics for, I think, well over 100 years. It's got to be the Tories taking the North.
Well, since Labour's been able to run them.
Since the 1920s probably, since Labour first got in power with Ramsay MacDonald, right? They took one of the most poignant ones that they took in 2019 was actually was at Workington, which is quite close to Sunderland. It's only about a 45-minute drive. And it's literally like the most... It was a bit of a watershed moment in British politics, because they took Workington, which is like this old, a bit ran down, coal manufacturing, based around solely industry. Not many people live there. I think it's in its thousands. But it showed the left had truly lost what they used to have, which was the working class, and the right wing, which will negatively impact the working class, and has been for the last 11 years, are gaining them on such a mass scale, not just in Britain but in America as well. I mean, in America it's been happening for a long time, a lot longer than here, and you go to any other country, I imagine the same is happening in France, Italy, most of Europe.
I brought this up. I brought this up a couple of weeks ago. It was when I was watching a Channel 4 documentary on Italian fascists, like Italian neo-fascists. And one of them said something that I thought was really actually quite poignant. And then he was being interviewed, and they were talking about some of the social programs that this fascist party was running. They were running food banks, and they were running hostels for working class people who didn't have enough money. And the fascist he was interviewing said, "We're doing what the Communist Party used to do." And it's
I think you mentioned this.
Yes,
yeah.
It's like exactly. Like the left needs to be the people like Jeremy Corbyn actually did this, but it never got published in the media. But he would actually go to food banks and help people like that. And
proper community outreach. That's what Corbyn was about. Yeah. Proper actually relating to that community. And Corbyn grew up middle class, but you understand what it.
Yeah, he was actually.
He had sympathy for people.
He wasn't protesting just from a young age. He wasn't just surface level.
It wasn't just an attitude of like they're dirty racists.
He actually cared.
Well, the way people, the way the left, relating to the history, the way the modern liberal left look at the northeast and the northwest, midwest, and Yorkshire, they look at us as though, like Britain looked at Russia in the 19th century, in the 20th century. We looked at them as socially backwards. Basically morons who can't fend themselves, and they're always going to be in turmoil. That's how left liberals look at working class people. They're morons, they're socially backwards, they're not ready for this sort of new order of things, they're not ready for it, and if they aren't ready for it, we can abandon them because of that.
I mean, even I'd say the people aren't like left liberals, the people who will call themselves socialists or communists or Marxists.
Oh, all the people in that chat will call them
that. Yeah, they will call themselves that, but they're not. Their entire focus is on socially progressive politics, which again we are all socially progressive, but it's the fact that it's just the dominant focus constantly, and they I feel like their view of the working classes is quite it's like Lenin, the working class to Lenin was this sort of what do you call it, like unstructured sort of clay that needed to be moulded by the hands of the party, and the working class to Lenin was fucking worthless. They needed to be fucking changed, and I feel like a lot of these middle class sort of socialists and communists view the working class as the same. They're dirty fucking racist peasants who need to be changed before we can actually move on with anything.
Well, an exposing time in British history was the referendum, and I think. With Brexit, my opinion is quite varied on it. There are genuine criticisms of the EU, but a united Europe does sound like a great idea in some ways. But the grievances people had towards the EU, that some were genuine, especially poor people, had genuine grievances. A lot of my family did, right? Because they hadn't seen any benefits from them. They felt as though they were stealing from them. The reason they felt as though they're stealing from them is because they never had anything to begin with. So looking for an enemy, looking for something to dislike or hate is very, very soothing for yourself in this situation when you're in such level of poverty. And the response to it from the liberal establishment, again, was that these working class people are just a bunch of daft racists who fell for a bunch of liars. That's nonsense. Yeah, there was a lot of lies in the referendum. Farage lied, Boris Johnson lied, Michael Gove lied, all of them did, Mogg lied, right? No doubt, and a lot of people probably were swayed by that. But why were they, the question should remain, why were they so...
Why were they so ready to be swayed?
Why were they so ready to be swayed? Why was there no left-wing person who could actually convince them otherwise?
The way things have been going for years and years and years, where there's been, in the northeast especially, just a lack of jobs, just low income, just poverty. The city is disgusting. It just looks
in
horrible.
Sunderland
it just looks
I mean,
horrible.
even Newcastle is deplorable. It's just the city centre's nice.
The city centre of Newcastle's nice, but if you go outside of that, it's just disgusting.
And a lot of Americans...
In Yorkshire, you have specific little towns what are nice.
Well, we live in Leeds, and you can go to the city centre, and it's amazing. You go to the council building, it's grand.
Come to Hyde Park.
Yeah, no, then you come to Hyde Park, and it looks like a fucking ghetto.
It looks like a show.
It does look like a ghetto.
Well,
I mean, you go to Chapelton, and it looks like a ghetto.
Keeping things the same for so many years, nothing has changed. So when somebody comes along and says, look, if we leave here, it means that, if we leave the EU, it means that we can get you more money because we're spending so much money on the EU. So you're going to have more money, you're going to have more benefits. Because we leave them, it's going to create so much, there's going to be so many jobs people can have, so many, labour jobs that people can actually work. And people go, oh, hang on a second. That might actually be right. We might actually be able to get more work. We might get more money. So it's no fucking wonder people fall for it more. It's no wonder people want something to actually believe in.
And it's not because they're stupid.
It's because they're manipulated.
And here's an added one on top of that. The people who voted for Trump, the mass majority of them, weren't deplorables. They weren't stupid. I mean, you get the occasional clips where the Trump supporters look daft. But that's because they found a man who they feel actually defends them. And I'm not saying Trump's a good, positive force at all, but they actually found somebody.
Part of this is definitely the case in the US, and it's also the case with Brexit here, is that here Brexit was the first time that people had the option for radical change, for like something that was actually, because leaving the EU is like a fucking very radical change in British politics, and voting in Trump, a person like Trump who would speak, he would say all the things that Republicans wouldn't dare to, about immigration. He had the sort of firebrand kind of rhetoric that Republicans never had. Is the first radical option people have had in the UK. It's for like 40 years since like Michael Foot. In the US, it's since like fucking forever. So and the working class people actually chose radical change because they feel I think it's because they feel like they need radical change. They picked change in the wrong direction.
Well, desperate people are the easiest to manipulate, and the rich people are the easiest at fucking smelling out where there's going to be more money for them, more opportunity.
Opportunists. For them. Trump was an opportunist, but the thing is, was he wrong about the state of the country? Was Trump wrong when he was running? No, he wasn't. He wasn't wrong. His policies were stupid. His policies were easily criticised, and his actual personality was disgusting. But was he wrong?
The position from which he critiqued things is obviously wrong, but when he says things like the US is getting ripped off by fucking the way
but when he says you're getting ripped off, he's not wrong.
He wasn't talking from a place of him actually believing that, but the things he was saying.
But he allowed people to feel that.
Yeah, people actually did believe what he was saying.
Yeah, he obviously had no conviction in them, and he was ineffective when he was president. He was a disaster, but he made people feel as though that's my guy.
Things might get better.
And do the left wing not need an equivalent of that? An extremely abrasive figure who comes in, more abrasive than Corbyn and Sanders put together, who comes in and makes them feel like that's my guy.
Yeah, well, I think Corbyn could have done that if he hadn't been, slandered.
Corbyn was that, but the media and obviously a lot of the newspapers that are quite common in poor areas are the Sun, Daily Mail, and Express, and they despised him. So obviously the media and propaganda campaign against Corbyn was so vast and so lethal that he was basically destroyed from the get-go.
And they manufactured the consent of everyone.
He was blasted constantly about very minor things, and then occasionally his words were changed to sound like horrendous,
Well,
obviously, about
BBC edited
Hamas
the-
and all that.
The BBC edited a photo of him to make him look.
Like a Soviet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
look
No,
like
was
Soviet.
it the Kremlin in the background?
Ah,
And he
yeah,
had
I
did he have a
think
cap
they,
on?
They changed the colour to be more red.
Yeah, the smog. There was
Yeah.
smog everywhere as
Yeah.
well, which is obviously the always partial BBC. You know what I mean? That we have to pay. What was it? £200 a year for?
Nah, I don't.
I don't either.
Yeah.
I don't have a TV license. Fuck them cunts. Anyways, I'm not paid a TV
You know,
license.
this is something I did. I saw this. I did my essay was on the media, and it was the Conservative Culture Secretary in 2013, I think, wanted to make it so that the BBC has a board, like an executive board that kind of decides what it does, and he wanted to make more than half of the members on that board appointed directly by the government, which is pretty fucked up.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That didn't go through.
Didn't go through, but there are still a few who were appointed by the government, which is pretty messed up.
You should not have anybody in the BBC appointed by the government, especially not working on the news channels. Maybe why would no, actually, they shouldn't even work on the TV shows on it or the films that the BBC produce. No, nothing like that. That's actually pretty deplorable. And no surprise, you saw the Conservatives have become more brazen, and they are increasingly becoming authoritarian. And genuinely, this isn't some reactionary nonsense. You sound like Alex Jones shit. We are on our way to becoming a genuine police state to an extreme. Look, can we really, as people who are interested in politics, sit here and go, oh yeah, China's got XY problems, yeah, China's really authoritarian, when we are on our path to creating the exact same policies? We are. This is exactly what China does with protest. Relating to this bill, China probably have exact same laws in place regarding
you can
protest.
protest in China as long as it's approved. Like, I don't know, you know how China loves the NBA?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, well, there
what one of the, was it LeBron James criticised?
Yeah, and a bunch of Chinese people actually protested it, and they were given permission to protest because the government sanctioned it. And now we're in a position where the fucking Home Secretary will have to, and the police, who are generally speaking not like super like Marxist communists, I've heard, the police and the Home Secretary are going to have to approve what protests can be held and decide.
And what's annoying and not.
Yeah. They get to decide what's annoying, and this is what when I emailed the Marxist Society about joining it, what I said to them was, if you don't think that this bill is going to overwhelmingly and mainly affect the left wing as opposed to the right wing, then you're fucking insane. Because this is a bill that is designed to hurt left wing protests far more than right wing protests.
Oh yeah, of course. Well, of course. Left-wing protests are usually quite disorganised.
Yeah. Well, plus it's in the power to decide which protests can go ahead is in the hands of a right-wing government. And a right-wing government.
Exactly. And I imagine, and they've got power for the next 5 years, no matter what, unless they call a snap election, which is really unlikely. They're quite happy with their fairly strong majority, and I don't see a snap election being called. And if they did, I think they'd win it. I think they'd still win it because nobody saw the negatives maybe of Brexit yet, because Brexit could maybe have a bit of an impact on that.
It's been overshadowed by COVID.
Yeah, exactly. And I think people have got a newfound, I think maybe a misplaced respect for the Conservatives and how they've dealt with COVID, because I don't think they've dealt with it that well, and they've also abused the hell out of the NHS. I mean, you saw recently there was some strikes. I don't know, did the nurses strike over the 1% pay rise?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
1%.
that, yeah.
1% pay rise after a full year of battling
Like,
an horrendous
as well.
pandemic.
No,
But
but
it'll
noises.
last longer than a year.
Well,
They won't be raising that for. They don't like to raise
The
the
last
pay
one, I
rise.
think, was 0.5% or something.
It's
No, but what
pathetic.
annoys is the Conservatives keep banging on about how our NHS workers are heroes.
Oh,
no,
yeah.
they're fucking not. They're not heroes. They are people doing a job that you need to fucking pay them for. They're not heroes. They're not doing their job for free.
Yeah,
you need to pay them accordingly.
Yeah, working at the NHS is a selfless job in a sense, but you should
It's
fucking
selfish,
pay
but they're
them
not
well.
heroes. They're not.
Hey,
They're not.
hey,
they're
it's-
just there
it's
for
not-
the
it's
people.
not
They're
wrong.
there for themselves as
They
well.
put
They
their
need to
lives
be
on
paid.
the line. They deserve.
Yeah, it's
During
not.
COVID, they deserve a pay
Exactly,
rise.
and
Deserve
if quite a
more
few of
than
them
any of them
died.
fucking bastards,
A
too.
lot of nurses should be demanding. Look, we deserve 10%.
And have you seen what they had to wear during COVID? Like the full.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well,
people-
my,
that
People
should be
had
horrendous.
bruises on their
Yeah.
faces
Yeah.
from when they were having
My,
to wear
Having masks.
my
heads,
cousin, I think it's my cousin. It's someone in my family. It works in the NHS, and she was actually working at the hospital where Boris was when he got.
when he got shouted at.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. When he got shouted at.
when the
No.
guy started confronting him.
No, when he got COVID.
Oh right, I
She
thought
was
you
what-
meant when it was just before the pandemic. The guy walked up and started arguing
Oh,
with
I've
him.
seen
Yeah,
that,
it's brilliant.
No, but she was one at the hospital where Boris Johnson was, and I think she's had quite a few breakdowns just over the past year, because I think she's seen people die.
Imagine the amount of people the average nurse is seeing dying, especially if you're working in like a hospital in a very populated city like London. You've probably seen an absurd amount of people die. And obviously a lot of nurses build up a rapport with their patients. So they come to like them, and they come to almost root for them. Obviously they don't just want them to live because they're a person, they want them to live because they actually like them, they care for them. It becomes a care thing, and they've went through mass trauma, and you'll get people saying, well, it's not really trauma, they're just doing the job. What about the army? And it's like, well, no, stop invoking the fucking army and everything, you daft cunt.
It's not the same, but Morgan works in a prison, and she's seen so many people like pass away due to COVID. She had to give, I think she, it was either her or like other people, there were 6 people around her. They had to give someone who had COVID CPR. Like actually mouth to mouth.
Stop breathing, yeah.
She's seen quite a few people die of COVID, and it'd be traumatising.
Now, the really insulting thing is that I'm fairly certain the budget had been written, and they'd actually budgeted to include a higher pay rise. It was 2 or 3% pay rise, like with whatever tax increases that Sunak was going to implement, and then they just scrapped it anyway. Which is like, you already had the money for it, and then you scrapped it.
Yeah.
You fucking bastard.
No, but come on, they're raising the taxes by a few percent in 2023, so we've got something to look forward to.
No, and the thing is, they're not even. There's one of the taxes that they're raising. They're not even raising; they're just holding it steady, so it doesn't rise. No, it's the tax brackets. Normally, the tax brackets rise with inflation, but they're holding them steady for like a couple of years, so it technically increases taxes by like a tiny amount.
No, right.
So, but no actual.
I think with that budget, I remember watching it. I think nothing. There's no revolution that's occurred there. It's not revolutionary. It's the same old. Even though, I mean, I know it's the Tories, but you think they'd do something revolutionary in terms of their actual politics in this moment, because it's the perfect opportunity to do so. Look, to be honest, people will look back at the 2019 election just pre-COVID, and I remember we've had arguments with other people who are a bit further right than us and don't like Jeremy Corbyn, and said Corbyn wouldn't have been able to deal with these properly. He would have basically crumbled. I think Corbyn given this budget, the opportunity to do this budget in 2021, he could have revolutionised Britain. He would have revolutionised Britain. I know we're playing fantasy politics, and it's maybe a bit stupid to do that, but that's where I see Corbyn maybe having that perfect opportunity to do so, and the Tories did, but they haven't took it.
I mean, obviously you've heard of the Great Reset, but there's a potential for a real actually great reset with COVID, because it has highlighted the need for better health services and better public transport and better safety nets for people. But with the Tories, I feel like maybe one of the reasons the Tories keep getting in is that they're really comforting. In a lot of ways, if you're middle class, the Tories are really comforting because nothing changes.
You're basically you're getting rocked in the cradle. Yeah. Oh, do you want your bottle? There you go. All right, here's the low taxes. We're not running the tax bracket for a few years. We're all good. Yeah. It is comfort for them. It's comfort for middle class people, and to be honest, for a lot of working class people, it's like revolutionary. It's an affront to what they saw as the establishment, which the left wing have become the establishment, which is just so depressing.
Now, this is something Zizek talks about. He talks about vulgarity, and how in the 60s the left was the side of the political aisle that was very vulgar, that would swear, that would just be impolite, be fucking nasty. Yeah. And now that's the right wing. Now it's the right wing.
The right wing, yeah.
Yeah, it's Trump who's saying bomb the shower them.
Yeah. So. It's Trump who's saying fuck them. It's Trump who's saying beat the shit out of that guy.
Trump who's saying, in South Park when Mr. Garrison becomes Trump, he's like, I'm gonna fuck him in the air.
Yeah. It's that attitude that's overtaken Republicans and Conservatives now. The Conservatives are far more abrasive. I mean, it's now. Like, obviously, left-wingers would never say this, national left-wingers, socialists would never say this, but what Pretty Patel said about the loony human rights lawyers, that's them now, the abrasive ones. In the 60s, I mean, you mentioned Michael Foot earlier, that was like one of the last ones who were extremely abrasive. And then even Neil Kinnock was very abrasive. He was a very angry figure. People like Nye Bevan as well.
Yeah,
lovely man.
Well, I haven't looked into Michael Foot enough, but I have watched some of the speeches. I actually really like him, just as a person, because he's fucking funny. Like he was quite well regarded just for being witty. And if you listen to his health and government speeches, they're always just laughing because he's a funny fucking guy.
No, but I might actually give that a go.
Yeah.
Well, he did. Thing is, he did write the longest suicide in history, though, Michael Foot, which fucked him over entirely when he done that.
Yeah. I heard it was apathy that fucked him over.
Yeah, he fucked him over. Oh yeah, fuck Tony Blair as well.
Yeah. Actually, the last note before we wrap up. Guardian did an article recently about some weird people who have been claiming furlough, and Tony Blair's been claiming furlough.
Tony Blair?
Blair's been claiming furlough
what?
for his businesses. Not like he gets the wage, but he's been claiming for his business, even though he's worth like several £100 million.
He's worth several hundred million.
I'm pretty sure.
Tony Blair?
He's worth. It's either 10.
I thought he could have only been worth like a couple, maybe.
Nah, it's a lot of millions.
A lot of millions.
No, 60 million, sorry. But
60 million?
Yeah, 60
hell.
million. No, because politics is actually just a business. Because what you do is you get in, and if you become
then you
Prime
sell your
Minister-
books.
Yeah, you sell your books.
Yeah.
You sell your, like,
You sell your film deals
Yeah,
and
right,
all
you
that.
become
Yeah.
Barack Obama, and you sell like your 18 different autobiographies.
Yeah, because he's done a lot. Oh no, you get in. Bush has made a lot of money. Another thing that politicians get when they leave power, if you're a prime minister or even high up in a cabinet, you'll get a journalism job. You'll get to become the head of a certain company. You'll get paid to advertise for that company and appear there.
Or you
to make it
get,
look more professional.
you can get. The European Union does have a lot of fucking bullshit like commission jobs. They're called moonlighting jobs. There was I can't remember his name. I watched a good video on. You should watch out the video actually. It's something like the interview that changed Ireland forever, something like that. It was an Irish politician.
I've saw that video.
Yeah, well, it was the guy who was Taoiseach, and then he ended up gave an interview, and then whatever, fucking career died, but he ends up just becoming a European commissioner, and he was set for life.
Yeah, he's set for life because he's getting so much money. So yeah, politics is like, I'll do that for a bit. I won't really change much, and I'll be able to just make a load of money when I fuck off.
Yeah, just sell your
and I don't really change anything and leave the country a bit in ruins.
Yeah, Obama's like books have probably weird names, like fucking like My Struggle and shit like that. But like, look at this fucking bullshit, you know.
No, what the fuck? How many fucking books is Obama? What the fuck? Obama has made like 30 books.
He has made an entire book of just his Christmas messages.
Ah, right. Obama is some bullshit, isn't he? Obama's actually made up. No, he's taking the piss.
Yeah, no,
he
it's
must be
fucking
joking.
Jesus, yeah.
Surely
is-
some of these are not written by him.
No, some of them we have got. Well, some of
Holiday
them are, but
messages
Drinks
from
My
the
Father.
Obamas.
That's
Oh yeah, that's the one Alex Jones loved because
Yeah.
he allegedly. I forgot what it was.
We Can Be Better.
Yeah, he's made a lot of. He's made 3 autobiographies. What could he be offering after the first one?
Yeah. No, it's like.
Maybe after the
Well-
second one.
No, this is a probably good. This is the video of Iranian President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, the UN General Assembly. This is a speech he gave whenever. This is the speech where he denies the Holocaust and says that 9/11 was an inside job. At the UN.
Really?
Yeah.
Is he the guy who wrote up when smells like sulphur?
No, that was
Bush
Chavez.
water?
That was
Oh
Chavez.
yeah,
Sulfur.
Chavez. Smells like sulphur's up here. No, Hugo Chavez was a socialist in Venezuela, and he didn't like Bush. Bush was speaking to the UN. He went down. Hugo Chavez comes up, and he goes, smells like sulphur.
No, he said yesterday the devil was here.
Yeah. No. He says something like it's sulphur. I can smell sulphur.
Yeah, he said that. No, it's another funny thing he did. I saw today. He actually got up at the UN General Assembly and whipped out a fucking Noam Chomsky book and just like showed it around like
Chavez.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
It's
fucking
cool.
insane.
So,
Yeah, that's
yeah.
bizarre.
No, and this speech is like weird though because he'll talk about how the US is like causing so much instability and killing so many people with all these different wars, and you're like, shit, you know, I actually might agree with Ahmadinejad. And then he says something like, and you sanction countries just for daring to question the Holocaust. And it's like,
Oh,
okay,
shit.
Yeah, fuck.
You lose all sympathy when he drops that one.
Yeah.
It's quite weird having a president being like a conspiracy theorist about 9/11.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
quite
it's
bizarre.
cool.
But yeah, we've went through all the issues. Tomorrow, if we don't come back, we've been arrested and we've been locked up and we've been charged.
Or
But,
we're dead. We've been
yeah.
pushed over.
Oh, we've been dead. Yeah, we've been pushed over like Tomlinson. Just as Finn, by the way. But basically, guys, have a good one. And if anybody wants to come to the protest, it is in. Oh no, no, it doesn't matter because if anyone has a time machine to come to the protest, right, it's in Kale Square, Sunderland. Near the McDonald's. Go there. We'll be protesting mad.
Right, the Lincoln
Right.
Memorial in the bridges. All right, so just fucking
Bring
get there.
McDonald's.
Yeah, bring McDonald's for us.
Bring a packed lunch.
And a megaphone.
Bring a pack
And a megaphone.
No,
But,
no fizzy pop allowed though.
Because
No sugary
Yeah.
sweets.
It'd be too violent if we had that.
It's gotta be
Basically,
healthy, it's got to be fruit.
yes, gotta be like a fruit bag
And
from McDonald's
absolutely no Coca-Cola.
and a shaker salad. But basically, in a bit, guys, have a good one.
Bye.